Obviously official. Elon Musk purchased Twitter for $44 billion. Now, we were yesterday on air, and Brian Stelter was worried about this. Happened yesterday around the same time, around 10:45, where he was speculating. Remember, I said to you guys, look, he's only presenting one side when he was speculating yesterday at 10:45. He's going, are they going to lose users because of, it being the Wild West? Super straight. And then he had time to reflect. Mm-hmm. And later, after we were off air, I said, well, is he going to find balance and look at both points of view?
Yeah.
This is the issue with CNN. Again, it's look to the why. Don't look at what's being said. Look at what's not being said. He had time to reflect upon it. We've seen an increase in users on Twitter. You've seen a lot of people sign up right now. You've seen the stock price go up. It's very clear how the market has spoken. Now watch CNN and super heterosexual Brian Stelter speak in the face of all hard data.
Look, who knows? I think that's an example of a broader question for Twitter, which is
always goes broad.
If you get invited to something where there are no rules, where there is total freedom for everybody, do you actually want to go to that party, or are you going to decide to stay home? And that's a question for Twitter users. Some Twitter users might love the idea that there's going to be absolutely no moderation and no rules at all. Others might not want to be anywhere near that. Am I crazy, Matt?
No, you're right. And what happens to the advertising? I mean, if there's no moderation or little moderation, do the advertisers stay away? What does that do to the business prospects for Twitter itself?
Ooh, all this talk about parties probably has Stelter in his feels.
He's having flashbacks to all those parties he didn't get invited to at Towson.
That's true.
Don't worry, he's got his own.
See how he presents that? Yeah. Some people would love, some people might love no rules and anarchy and danger. Look, there are already rules. It's called the law. You can't threaten someone with death unless they're conservative, like we've had, then they don't get removed. There are laws that exist. Also, other reactions. We have Ari Melber from MSNBC. And this is really telling where he doesn't realize what he's saying, but he's saying it. Again, watch what the left don't. This is why we always use leftist sources. So if you check the references, and by the way, smash the like button if you guys use the references. Megyn Kelly uses the references. I did an interview with her. If you use them, if you appreciate that we provide them, otherwise we're just going to stop providing them. But we always use neutral or liberal sources because I'm far more interested in hearing what the opposing point of view to my own. I'm right-leaning. I'm very open about that. I'm very open about my bias. I'm far more interested in what they're saying because it's more telling. So Ari Melber on MSNBC, here he lists the problem with social media censorship. The irony train's not stopping here.
You own all of Twitter or Facebook or what have you. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't even have to be transparent. You could secretly ban one party's candidate or all of its candidates, all of its nominees, or you could just secretly turn down the reach of their stuff and turn up the reach of something else, and the rest of us might not even find out about it after the election.
So it's almost like he said this wasn't
Elon
possible
Musk says this
before.
is all to help people because he is just a free speech, philosophically clear, open-minded helper.
Okay, let me be clear here just for a second. He's saying a member of one party. Just to be clear, the guy he's talking about as though it's Donald Trump who now owns Twitter is the guy who spearheaded the modern electric car, has done more for the green movement than any other human being alive right now. And by the way, the man who creates the car that your party told people to buy with skyrocketing gas prices. So that's who he's talking about as the evil villain who's going to throttle the party. Meanwhile, at the Twitter board, and if you look at people, not only at Twitter, not only at ABC, at NBC, CBS, MSNBC, you look at Netflix, you have actual members of the Clinton administration, the Obama cabinet. These people sit on the boards. Elon Musk is an actual African-American guy who invented the most successful electric car of all time.
Right. He was like, hey, Harry, where'd you get your talking points? Well, it's what Twitter said they were already doing.
Yeah. Well, I got it from.
What we should be afraid of.
I got it from June of 2020.
Yes.
It was in a file called The Plan.
The DNC plan. Oh, crap. Sorry. No. The RNC plan now. We had to change some.
Oh, yeah. We just changed one letter.
He's using the dialer like he's getting Brian Stelter started.
Yeah, he added 2 lines to the D.
Gosh.
Yes, an R now.
That is so terrible. I feel really bad for that guy, too. He's like out there like, guys, this is a problem.
Yeah.
We're like, yes. Thank you. Finally.
He just admitted it.
That's a bad thing if somebody can do that. Who would have thought?
He's like, this couldn't have happened before.
Yeah.
Several months later. This is exactly what happened.
Well, just to give you another example, how many times have you heard us talk about Section 230? My half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond, we've discussed this many times. We've been embroiled in many a legal battle. And the left acted like it
about it
didn't
with Ted
exist.
Cruz.
We talked about it with Senator Ted Cruz.
Incredibly important.
Yes. And Rand Paul. Well, here's Jen Psaki when asked about the Twitter situation, giving a non-answer, but again, it's very telling.
The president has long been concerned about the power of large social media platforms, the power they have over our everyday lives, has long argued that tech platforms must be held accountable for the harms they cause. He's been a strong supporter of fundamental reforms to achieve that goal, including reforms to Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms, requiring more transparency, and more. And he's encouraged that there's bipartisan interest in Congress. In terms of what hypothetical policies might happen, I'm just not going to speak to that at this point.
Okay, so let me just inform you a little bit, if you're not necessarily aware. Section 230 is what provides protections to a lot of these social media companies because it treats them similar to a utility, right, where it's a digital sort of town square. So the idea is they're not held liable for anything that is said on their platform, as opposed to, say, the New York Times or Washington Post, who would be held liable if there's any kind of defamation slander that's written there because they're a publisher. Okay. So 230 gives them those protections. Now, we have talked about this for a long time, and my solution has always been these social media platforms get a choice. Are you a platform or are you a publisher? If you're a platform, it's very simple, because a lot of people say, well, if you declare them all to be platforms and you hold them liable, then you'll get rid of message boards. No. If Facebook, which enjoys safe harbor status, or Twitter, or YouTube, they enjoy the status equivalent to a public utility, okay? They then, if they decide to enjoy that status, cannot censor or remove anyone based on point of view or favor any point of view outside of the law. The laws are very clear. Things like death threats, things like active calls to physical violence. For example, things that might actually be labeled slander or defamation. Those people will be held liable, but not the actual platform itself. Now, if they so they have a choice with 230. This is our solution. Or they can decide that they are a publisher. For example, if YouTube says this content is allowed, but this content is not. Or even if they say this content is allowed to be deemed monetizable, this content is not. Yeah. Or if Twitter says this information is allowed, but this information is... You are now a publisher like the New York Times or Washington Post. You just have to pick, and you get to pick. Now, when she says reform to 230, and this is my problem when people say common ground, it's usually bullshit. And this comes as someone who's done change my mind and who has had more civil discussions with leftists than arguably any other host that I know of here on conservative platforms. Because I try and match intensity and I try and give people the respect that I would, hope I'd receive on their program. I still tell you that most common ground is bullshit because that's how we believe we approach Section 230. Them saying, well, there's bipartisan support. They want more regulation and to crack down on companies for not removing points of view enough. There is no common ground just because you're looking at a law. It's like saying we need to find common ground on this murder law.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, yeah. Well, good. So look, we all agree we need to do something about this murder, right? Yeah, we think it should be illegal. See, we think it should be legal though.
You know what it did? It prevented Twitter from being sued when Donald Trump's tax records were illegally published.
Right.
Right?
But then, by the way, the Hunter Biden story was a violation of privacy.
Well, yes, because that was obviously stolen information. I mean, forgotten and left somewhere thrice.
In a drugged up haze.
Horrific crimes.
Maybe 4 laptops. Who knows?
Is that not a clear enough example?
Yeah.
Donald Trump, tax return illegally stolen, leaked.
10 days apart.
Hunter Biden, story that was legitimately obtained, would have affected the outcome of the election every single swing state. Twitter decided yes and no. That, when you're talking about democracies and midterms, what they're saying is we want to be able to continue to do that. Hey, has the left ever apologized?
No.
Has the New York Times, the Washington Post, has CNN, has MSNBC, they then cover the Hunter Biden story and say, well, it seems like this is legitimate, without saying, hey, we were wrong in supporting the removal of a story that would have directly affected the outcome of the election. Hey, they never have to apologize. That changed. Without even getting into mail-in voter errors, fraud, whatever you want to call it, and we've covered that at length, without even getting into that, just the Hunter Biden story, let alone pages like ours being throttled 90%. I can only imagine with other conservatives. Just that is enough to tilt the vote and change the history of the United States. And all we want now is just say, no more of that. No more of that. And they're acting like it's the Third Reich. Okay.
Well, to them it is.
Yes,
it takes away all that power.
Yep. All that white power, you meant to say.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Boy.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.